Good evening, everyone. I'm starting to feel like Ed, a friend of mine's dad, who passed away and who was a wonderful man. he was the he was the guy in charge of entertainment for the Vietnam War. So someday we'll have to explore those stories. He sure had a wild, bizarre life, but he used to say to me, I have narcolepsy during the day and insomnia at night. And I've been feeling that lately, so sorry if the vids have been a little odd. But there was this amazing friend we had, and his name was David George, and I think I might have some vids on him. I definitely have some. I'm not sure if they're on private or not. This is the Washington Business Association, and he ran a really cool paper in town. In fact, he was the editor of the Evergreen College paper until he started doing stories on how bad they were. He started going through dumpsters and getting, janitors to talk, and just found out all kinds of crazy things. And so but he also was the person who he was the person who talked Matt Groening into being a cartoonist, and he would publish him, the Simpsons guy, so that's funny. But he would also go around at night and kind of peer in the windows and take pics, and he would go through the dumpsters, and it's really crazy what you find. I've done it a few times. I just don't want to get caught or in trouble, but I was over at Department of Natural Resources. This was a long time ago, and looked in a window, and it had all this stuff on earthquakes that they weren't talking about or something. It was really, really weird. And I called to ask about it the next day, not telling them I'd looked in the window, and the guy was like, no, there's no earthquakes here. That's not true. And the crazy thing was, the next day we had a huge earthquake, one people talk about, the quake of 95 or whatever year it was. The 90s to me are a bit of a blur, but I was here, I remember, because my cat disappeared, and all of the state buildings, they emptied out. Oh, that's really cool. I like that. The state buildings all emptied out, and there were just people pouring into the streets. But yeah, they leave the lights on, and they have documents that are just out, if they still go to work now. I mean, the last time I was in this building, the woman at the front desk, really nice lady, was, she said, oh boy, a guy drove all the way down from Seattle to come here, and he showed up at 1 p.m., a good time, and there was no one here because with COVID they all sort of stopped coming to work. And she said a lot of them haven't come back, and those that have come back all cut out at noon and stuff. That it's just weird. Yeah, look, I mean, you don't even see the usual balloons and, as I call it, the children's hospital look. Every one of these rooms looks really blank, as if no one even is there anymore at all. It's like a lit up, abandoned, Potemkin village or something. It's so weird. I still have that book. It's probably overdue by now. The MK Ultra book, and have been doing a ton of research. It's hard because I don't know where everyone who's watching, I don't know where everyone's at. We could have our basic, it's, and I don't mean basic. Yes, your basic, MK Ultra 101, but a good place to begin, because we're really trying to figure it out with Evergreen. That's kind of where we are here, and what hasn't maybe been documented quite so much, or what has been documented is pretty, like I said, I don't know if I told you this or not, but the archivist for Evergreen lived 2 doors down from me a while ago. And out of the blue, they got rid of him, which was really sad. He was one of those kind of super nerd, I live to be an archivist type. And he did get another job immediately because he had amazing credentials. And then they put in a person who kind of fit their mold more of what they wanted, but the person had no archival experience, but got the job, because Marxism. And she just threw everything out. So yeah, like basically everything is kind of gone now. I guess that's one good thing about hiring the ignorant, is they can really do your dirty work, and you can say, well, they didn't know. They were new, they didn't know anything. Man, I know you want to go over to the Capitol, but I'm not sure about right now. Okay, I don't trust the traffic. Oh boy. He's used to being the boss, you guys. He really is. But a good starter place where there truly is documentation, even to the point of being in Congress, is Dr. Cameron. Dr. Ewan Cameron. And he's also a good place to begin. I don't know, because I mean he knew the Dulles brothers, and it's kind of a grounding thing for me because that's the crazy place I worked. So I wish I worked somewhere where I could actually say, like, I helped people, maybe with the kids I did, but it was just like dealing with documents. So we have that, and there's a good, I don't know if I call it good movie. I mean, it's a heartbreaking movie, and I don't know if it was made like for Canadian television. It's a movie, but it's out of Canada, and I think the Canadians just really wanted everyone to know, like, what the heck had happened. This was one of the original, from the CIA, the newly minted CIA, and it was in Canada because it would be harder to trace than if it was in the US. Although they did end up having a sort of tiny clinic that was maybe part of McGill, that was located in Kentucky with Dr. Isbell. And I think I've mentioned that before because I was reading 2 books at once, and one of them was talking about that institute and Dr. Isbell, and the other book I was reading was about William Burroughs. It was a William Burroughs book, and he had gone to a Dr. Isbell in Kentucky to help his heroin addiction. So that's kind of really crazy. Yep, we've got endless buildings down there. I'm just kind of trying to avoid the traffic, if that's okay. We're gonna kind of walk around this funny little neighborhood. Hey, little guy. So, and this is where the cruelty comes out. I know there've been, I've mentioned before of someone talking about the MK Ultra assassin teams, and I did find a FOIA on that yesterday, so I had wanted to do that. I'm sorry, I'm just wanting to put it together better. So we've got that information where this Cameron thing was not producing the elite assassins. This Cameron thing was really creepy, and it was producing, sorry, it's a little dark here. We don't have all those streetlights here. It was producing really the opposite, vegetables. And, it's such an obvious kind of torture thing. It's one of those things when you look at it, you just don't even know how it happened, how he was allowed to get away with it, because it's just all the way bad. he was giving and these people had no idea, right? It's a secret thing. And he was the head of psychiatry at the McGill University. And he also was the head of some kind of clinic there, hospital where people stayed. And they targeted housewives suffering from depression. So imagine, here you are, you're living in Canada, there might not be a lot of light, the winters, whatever, you're sad, you're depressed, you're going through something, and so you reach out to your local mental health facility, and they give you LSD, which was brand spanking new then, really strong. I don't even see it around anymore. Not that I'm like out looking for it. Where is it? But you don't hear people begging for it to be legalized. I'm sure there's been a lot of people who've had great acid trips and wrote great songs and did amazing things, but there's also a lot of acid casualties if people weren't careful with the stuff. And so here are people who are depressed housewives, and suddenly they're in an institution, they're not at home anymore, and they're being fed not just even the amounts that like hippies took at Woodstock or whatever, the amounts of LSD that he was feeding them, it was insane. And not only was he just feeding them LSD, but he was putting them on tables and spinning them around, like for days on end. And if that isn't enough, the frosting on the cake was that he had this really dumb thing. Sometimes I get really annoyed. I mean, I kind of always had this love for learning and wanting to be part of academia, and then when you see what it really is, it's really a grand disappointment at times. And he invented something really stupid called psychic driving, and it was where he would have the people talk, and then when they said like the most embarrassing thing ever, he would record what they had said, and then he would have like the embarrassing thing they said over and over and over again. He'd put it on a loop, and so they would hear it like over and over again, something really embarrassing that they probably didn't want to say in the first place. So they're only hearing the same thing over and over and over again. It's completely bizarre. Ooh, that's pretty, isn't it? So that is just it's just strange. He was allowed to get like millions of dollars to drug people, spin them on tape. People, depressed housewives that went for help and compassion in a time of need. And instead they're like given, and so most of them, I think all of them maybe, never came out. Like, their families go to visit them and they're vegetables. They became vegetables, like having to wear diapers, can't even eat. They completely lost their minds. It's really, really, really horrible. And all in the name of whatever. I guess what he wanted to do, he said, was wipe away a personality and create a new personality. But there was no creating anything new. It was just, a fool breaking people's psyche, and that we're never able to come back. So that's Dr. Cameron. I'm going to look for the movie and I'll put it up. So if anyone, I know that Netflix is doing like a ton on this, and I should be watching it. I've always boycotted them, but maybe it's bad of me too. And, I'd like to see what the links are from like you and Dr. Cameron to Evergreen. So this was not the creating assassin part, but this was really the wiping it down so you can make it what you want part. Oh my God. Much love to everyone. It's so fun, isn't it, to sort of be out in the night where you can breathe and the world is still. Much love.